How's everybody doing?
Great.
Well, I have to apologize for the mix-up on the venue here. We wanted to show, Harlan and I are going to go through the presentation. How many of you have been to the seminars that have already been conducted here this weekend? Oh, okay, so we're done. So you got a lot of the detail, and so Harlan and I are going to give you a lot of the overview and maybe some of the background stuff that you didn't see. So we're going to give you some of the content that we originally delivered to the media as we introduced the car, and answer any specific background questions that you have. We'll say we wanted to do it in here today for this crowd because of the size of the screen. I don't know if you noticed in the other room. Very small screen. We've got some videos and things we wanted to show you, so wanted to make sure everybody got that today. So we're basically doing the same presentation today and tomorrow. So if you come tomorrow, there may be less visibility of the screen, maybe more time for Q&A and things like that, and talk about anything you want to talk about, any kind of background information on the launch or the reveal or anything. How many people were actually at the reveal up in Detroit? Okay, so a fair number of you actually saw that live and got to participate in that little bit of history. So we're going to start, as we always do, by recognizing the people who are here. I don't think we've ever had this many people supporting this event before. We usually do have quite a lot of people. This is the Michigan crew. So we designed the car in Michigan, build it in Kentucky, and then race and sell it all around the world. But this is just a tiny fraction. There's probably 1,000 people, maybe more than 1,000 people hard at work right now getting the Stingray ready for start of production. You've got this many people actually down here attending the event, giving seminars, interacting, and quite a few of them actually for the first time. Next slide. And then of course, locally here at Bowling Green, you've got people extremely hard at work. We just did the plant changeover in March, so the general assembly area of the plant is now completely redone, prepped for building the Stingray. The very first cars using the real manufacturing process are going down the line right now. The cars we've shown you previously, those are hoist-build cars. We had our body shop up and running, but we basically built those cars by hand on a hoist right in the Bowling Green assembly plant, but not down the line. So now we have the full line installed. We're running the first batch of cars. They're still non-saleable cars. These are cars that are going to be used for test, eventually crushed or destroyed in some way. Should I try to auction some off? I would, except it would be illegal. And they're not mine to sell. And we do have really important testing that we still have to do to make sure the car is complete. A lot of people think that because the car, you see it out there and you see real examples here that the car is done. It's not done. We have some additional testing, validation kind of things to do with the vehicle. So these are still non-saleables. And then next month we start building our saleable vehicles. Those are the very first cars that we get to drive as our captured test fleet. Usually what we do is we have our captured test fleet here at the bash, and you get to see the first of the next model years. Because this is an all-new car, major car, we have a lot more to do, a lot more checks, and so the cadence is a little bit later than a typical model introduction. We've said we're going to start building cars in the third quarter of this year, so that's when we'll start making cars for customers. So if you see anybody from the plant, know that they're very hard at work. There's a lot of 24/7 being done, trying to get everything ready. Okay, do you want to talk about sales?
Yeah,
Harlan always likes to talk about last year. I know you want to hear about next year, but you know us. We want to always do a little recap of the last year before we get into the new stuff.
right. And just because you have a 2013 doesn't mean it's obsolete.
Absolutely not.
But I just wanted to say, Corvette is our favorite Chevrolet, but I just wanted to point out Chevrolet is becoming very big globally outside the U.S. 60% Chevrolet sold outside the U.S., most ever, almost 5 million cars. Now, we can talk about racing. Of course, we had the great presentation this morning with Tommy Milner and Doug Feehan and Mr. Binks. And, what a great year we had, winning the ALMS GT Championship for Chevrolet, Drivers Championship, Team Championship, Manufacturers Championship. So we're in hot defense of that. And as you know, we kicked it off with a great win Tommy passing the Ferrari towards the end of the race at Sebring. Because of that, we got punished with a few restrictions, a weight penalty and a restrictor penalty at Long Beach. But we're still hoping to defend our championship. And it's really important. The same cars that we compete with on the racetrack are the same ones we want to compete with on the showroom. Also, last year was the first year of the Corvette Daytona prototype, and we also won the Manufacturers Champions in that series as well. And again, we're off to a good start with 2 first place finishes so far this year. But you know, it's important, the same cars we compete with, even with all the other new competition coming out, and you know, the Corvette in the last year of the 6th generation, still the #1 selling sports car in America.
And wait for next year after the Stingray's out.
So I did want to say about the 60th anniversary. This is what 60 years of Corvettes looks like on one sheet of paper. It's kind of fun to see. And you know, for the anniversary, we have a history of doing special cars for the anniversary, and we're really proud of that. We were able to not only celebrate the 60th anniversary, but kick off the great 6th generation Corvette, send it off in a high note with the 427 convertible and the 60th anniversary package, Arctic white, blue interior. We think this was a first in the industry. We did the stripe top to match the stripes on the car. I think we're the first ones to do that, where it was stitched right into the top. And the diamond blue leather wrapped interior, also part of the 60th anniversary. And the 60th anniversary ZR1 actually did pace the Indy 500 last year. And you could also get the 427 convertible in any of the colors that we offered. So you didn't have to get the 60th anniversary package if you just wanted that 427 convertible. We took the LS7 engine from the Z06 and put it in the convertible for the first time. And this really was a neat car, because I think no matter what we do going forward with the Stingray and the C7, that car is always going to be a special car, just like the Barrett Jackson, the older 427 big block convertibles are always highly collectible cars. But even beyond that, it was a great sports car. It is a great sports car. The power to weight ratio beats the Porsche 911 Turbo, Ferrari California convertible, and the Audi R8 V10 Spider. So in addition to being a special convertible, it's really, among supercar convertibles, a top performer as well. One of the things too, as we're getting towards the end of the 6th generation, you know, the guys across town really worked hard on the Viper. I know they targeted the ZR1. Well, they still couldn't beat us. Both Car and Driver and Motor Trend, the Corvette ZR1 beat the all-new Viper in both of their tests at Laguna Seca. No matter how much their executives complain, we still win. So in an overall, even they picked the car overall first place. Even the last year, Road and Track just featured a neat article on the new Road and Track format, where they put a Corvette ZR1 totally stock against the Formula One, the Lotus 49 Formula One car, you know, from the 60s. The cars were pretty close on the track. It's pretty remarkable. It's a pretty neat article, how far street cars have come versus the state-of-the-art F1 cars. I know a lot of people saw this movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger more for the ZR1 than the actual movie. I talked to a lot of people like that. That was definitely the star of the movie. And if you're watching Dallas, the new Dallas show features Corvettes as well. And just for the year, 2013 model year was up over 12. We did, I'm very proud, we did 2,552 427 convertibles. So that's really, we're very happy with how well that car did. It's really a special car. And most popular color, Arctic white. I think the 60th anniversary, Arctic white, #1, followed close behind by black for 2013. And a lot of the team, we were here for the kind of bittersweet moment to see the last Corvette, C6 generation Corvette 427 come off the line. And we're not going to sell it to anybody because the engine was built by Tadge and we don't want to subject anybody.
It did start. It did start.
It did start. So that's going to go in our Heritage Center as the last 6th generation. No, he did a good job. It would run. It would definitely cover the 100,000 mile warranty. No problem. And this is a neat picture too. Rick Hendrick asked to have his Corvette be the last one shipped out of the plant, so there's his car in a lonely lot being ready to go. And there it goes off into the sunset. So I know you as much as everybody likes 2013, I think you're mostly here for 2014. And again, a lot of you were at the premiere. It really was close. You know, we had 113. 13 was the introduction, and it was really close to the 60 years introduction of the Motorama show car, the 1953 Motorama car. Almost 60 years to the day was introduced. This was kind of a neat cartoon that was in the Detroit News. There was so much attention on the Corvette at Cobo Hall Detroit Auto Show, they just said no playing the Corvette and some other stuff. And we actually had a car, full-size car on the wall, mounted on the wall, both at Detroit. And we also had that at the New York Auto Show, right when you walked in, if anybody was at the New York Auto Show. It was even before you got into the show, and then a big hallway. We had the car right on the wall. Bob Lutz told us this was the best product reveal ever, and I mean ever. It was really Hollywood meets Detroit.
And when Bob Lutz says ever, he's been in the auto industry pretty much from the beginning, so he's been to all the reveals. So 100 years worth practically.
And I try not to show too many graphs and charts. You've seen a lot of engineering ones. This is kind of a marketing one, but media coverage. This is a chart of the media coverage by model. See, the top one was the Corvette, and you see everything else that was shown at the Detroit Auto Show underneath, as far as media coverage. And we have kind of a neat video that summarizes our media coverage. It's about 5 minutes.
This car right here, the 2014 Corvette Stingray.
It's great to be here. I wish the weather was a little better, but great to be here.
It doesn't matter. This car shines in any weather. Talk to me about what's very new about this car.
Absolutely everything. There's only 2 parts carried over from the previous Corvette.
And in just a couple of days ago, they unveiled the latest member of the Corvette family.
It's very comfortable. So it's kind of that appeal, the open road, the freedom, kind of the American dream.
Corvette fans are salivating over the first new redesign in a while. It's the 7th generation Corvette Stingray, unveiled at the big Detroit Auto Show.
Unleashed in Detroit last week, General Motors is hoping the new Stingray will put America's oldest auto nameplate back in the winner's circle. It's lower, wider, it's faster, and it's got an attitude.
And guess who's back tonight? That little red Corvette. Here it is, Chevrolet rolling out the new model today, taking us back to the same car Prince sang about, the one that took America by storm 16 years ago.
As the car was developing, you just kind of sense there's something very special about this particular Corvette. And I'm a big fan of Stingray. Big fan of Stingray. So, don't treat it lightly, the fact that we've added a new Stingray to this car.
Chevrolet setzt bei den Sportwagen in diesem Jahr auf einen echten Klassiker. Die Corvette in 7. Auflage, 450 PS in 4 Sekunden von 0 auf 100. Für GM soll es der Neuanfang sein.
66 jaar later, een leegstaand bouw in Detroit.
you know, the new Corvette Stingray. And just to keep going, we have Best in Show from Auto Week at the North American Auto Show. And you saw on the video the VIN 1, so it's Rick Hendrick bought VIN 1 for $1,050,000.
I don't know if everybody knows, but the Best in Show award was unanimously voted, and that's happened before a couple of times, but it's never happened before where no other car was even nominated.
And then the first convertible also went for $1 million, and some people were saying, well, I was surprised the convertible also went for $1 million, but I was looking at it like, well, usually the convertibles cost more than the coupe, so he got kind of a bargain, I think. And anybody who watched the Super Bowl knows the most valuable player, Baltimore Ravens, Joe Flacco, and he also, not that he needs it with his new contract, but he will be getting a 2014 Corvette Stingray as recognition of his most valuable player. And of course, all the magazine covers, people sending me pictures, you know, the magazine rack, we made the covers of all the Corvette, all the automotive magazines, obviously. And then we had the New York Auto Show, and at Times Square was really dressed up, you know, Corvette Stingray, huge billboards on the buildings and everything, really, really cool. And so I'm going to talk about the cars. You know, like Tadge was saying, unfortunately we can't have every different color in every car here, but we really were kind of strategic in how we picked out our show cars. And one of the things we really wanted to do was show the bookends of the new Corvette Stingray. And that, so for example, the torch red car, adrenaline red interior, black wheels, red brakes, is a very pure sports car, track focused, you know, performance focused, and so you can go that direction. And then the cyber gray car, Kalahari interior that we showed is really to push the Corvette in more the luxury GT direction. So it just shows you how you order the car, what colors you pick. You can really give the car a lot of different personalities in the design. And the cars we have here on display, we have the Night Race Blue convertible with the brownstone interior. That was our New York Auto Show introduction for the first convertible shown in America. And then the Laguna Blue Coupe, this is the first time we saved that one especially for the bash to show the new color, new Laguna Blue color and gray interior, and it has the chrome wheels, and it also has the solid top. So the first time that car has been shown is right here at the Corvette Museum. Here's the red interior. And another thing, you know, Kirk Banion at Design and our licensing team has been working for this. You know, we really want the passion for Corvette to go for all age groups. No matter how old you are, that's what we all remember growing up, is we all wished we had a Corvette someday. So you got to start young, corrupt young minds, as we say. And another thing we did that was really cool, we teamed up with Gran Turismo. Any people play Gran Turismo? A couple people. It's really known as one of the most realistic video game simulators out there. I mean, some of the drivers use it to practice. I know Jim Merrill used it to learn the curves in Nürburgring before he went out there. So it's really a neat simulator. And what we did something for the first time, we released as a download the camouflaged Corvette Stingray before we even introduced it. So you could drive the camouflage version, and then later on, right after the introduction, we released the two show cars, the Torch Red and Cyber Gray. So not only you could see the cars, you could drive them in the game. And I talked to a few people here that bought the game just so they could experience the car. So if you haven't seen it, there's a video here that kind of shows just how far the graphics and the realism have come. So now we're going to talk about the real car, now that you've seen the simulated car.
Okay, yes, on to the real car. So a lot of this is stuff that we gave to the media before we actually let them see the car. We did some long leads, so all those magazine covers that you saw there, those are long lead media. It takes them a while to get those on bookshelves or on magazines, newsstands. So we went through some of this presentation material, so I want to do that with you. So I've told people a lot of times, our basic job managing the Corvette is to figure out what kind of technologies make sense for our customers, all of you. There's lots of technology out there. Some of it makes sense for Corvette, some of it doesn't. Some of it comes from the auto industry, some of it doesn't. Some may come from racing or come from aerospace or come from elsewhere. But our test has always been, how does it make the driving experience better? The actual driving experience. Not take the driving experience away from the driver, or insulate the driver from the driving experience, but what actually makes that driving experience better. So that's a huge, important part of it. A lot of people were predicting that we'd do a V6 turbo, and how many, you guys remember me asking if you wanted a V6 in here? And you remember what the answer was? No. No, right. So we know it's a really lousy business strategy to bring out a new Corvette with worse performance than its predecessor. You might as well just keep the old car. So despite the new regulatory environment with CO2 and fuel economy and everything, so that's super important. You have to meet those requirements, but you can't go in and say, we're going to let that be an excuse to take the car down in performance. It's a sports car. It's a performance car. It has to perform. So more performance, you see right at the top, improve the driving experience, and oh, by the way, it has to be more efficient as well. The media, actually one of the first questions they asked me is, why do you even care about fuel economy? And my answer is, well, you guys tell me. I hear it all the time from customers. You know, they really appreciate the good fuel economy. For many customers, it's the most fuel efficient car they own. They like their long range. You can drive the car a really long way on a tank of gas. But if we didn't care about fuel economy, there wouldn't be a Corvette. That's just plain and simple. We have to do our part inside General Motors and inside the auto industry around the world to help elevate the efficiency of all these vehicles. So, returning of the STINGRAY, that was, we've told the story a lot, that that was the last decision we basically made. We aspired to that a very long time ago. We thought, you know, maybe we should bring the STINGRAY back, having used it since '76, I think. It would have been an easy thing to do to bring out a STINGRAY special edition, something like that, but we really didn't want to just use the name and dilute the brand. We wanted to do a car worthy of the STINGRAY brand. So that's why we waited till the end to make sure every aspect of the car was worthy of that moniker. So exterior appearance, interior appearance, the technology under the skin, the driving experience, everything really needed to build to represent that STINGRAY. And for a lot of people, not for you, but for a lot of people, the STINGRAY actually is kind of new. And they might have had some a mental image of what a Corvette was, but they're hearing what this car is and recognizing this is a STINGRAY is a really good strategy and is working as far as reaching out to people who maybe wouldn't have considered a Corvette before. Next slide. So this is a question we get a lot. You know, how do you do a new Corvette? You've seen the 6 generations that preceded it. How do you do a new car that looks like a new car? This is an extremely big challenge. It's a huge challenge for us on the team because we don't want to make the car look different just for difference sake. Obviously everybody wants to see the car, it looks new, so you know that you don't have the old one, but how do you make it look different in a way that is not just superficial? So we put a huge emphasis on that, trying to figure out ways to make the car look different in ways that actually make it work better. And the best example of that is the race car, right? The race car styling really doesn't matter. Winning races is all about performance, and so every line, every feature, every function on a race car is designed to win races, to go fast, to perform well. So we really looked to the race team for strategies that would make the car work better, and oh, by the way, it would end up looking different. We wanted the car to really, in the interior, that was the first thing we thought of actually when we're starting to do the new car, is how are we going to make the interior better? I know Ryan and Lucy have done one presentation, I think you have another one tomorrow. So we invite you to come to that. But really, we kind of designed the car in a way from the inside out. We sent Ryan to the track to spend time out there to appreciate what it's like to drive these cars at speed. It's a really high-stress work environment, and that interior has to work for the driver in that condition.
This is what design inspiration video we put together. Let's put together that design. Generate that.
So you can get a sense of some of the design features in that video, but I'll take you through some more of them. I was talking about getting, using race car techniques to make the car work better and also make it look different. One of the most obvious is in the front end airflow. Instead of like we've done on the past few generations of car, where we take the whole radiator assembly and tilt it back. You take the cool air in the front and then you dump the warm air that comes out of it underneath the car. If you look at race cars, they almost universally do the opposite. That this takes some engineering, this takes some real packaging challenges on a production car, but tilting the radiator forward and exiting the air out the hood takes the air up over the top of the car and helps create downforce on the front end. Very common, almost universal on race cars, almost unheard of on a street car. And then doing it in a very integrated and seamless way that looks good is a huge challenge too. So that was kind of one of the fundamental strategies around the front end of the car to get better downforce. Next slide. Another strategy we took was in the rear end of the car. The hatch is very different shape than what we've done previously. And that's all for functional reasons. That wasn't just a whim to put a quarter window in. It's all part of the integrated aerodynamics of the car. You can see the functional inlet on the quarter panel here. I think we have a slide, I don't know if it's coming up, but there's a inlet on the race car exactly with the same function in just about that same location. In fact, if you look at the race car, this is what I'm talking about here. If you look along the top of the quarter panel, you'll see a big inlet duct. That takes cool air in to cool the differential and the transmission. We decided to do the exact same thing on the STINGRAY. So that's what you see, those quarter vents that occur. They're slightly forward of that. You'll see the race car, this vent is actually where the hatch is today. And they can't stand that. I mean, that is a huge problem, having a functional vent that goes through the hatch, a removable panel, and it would be impossible to do that on a street car. You really don't want a hole in the bodywork that goes through the interior of the car. You know, it's raining and you got dirt and everything, you're gonna have to duct that out of the car somehow. So you really want that part of the fixed portion of the quarter panel, and that's why you see the pretty dramatic cut line that you see on the hatch on the STINGRAY, this big zigzag shape. And when you open that, you can see it's all there for function, but it really evokes a STINGRAY kind of imagery. And that's the reason the quarter glass is there too, to enable that functional vent there. Next slide. So all the features, I described a couple of them, every single feature that you see on the exterior of the car has a functional reason for being there and really helps with the overall aerodynamic performance. Next slide. All the graphics that you saw in that video, the computational fluid dynamics, these flow lines for how the air flows around the car, that's not an artist's impression, that's real computer output. So we use the same computer analytical tools that Pratt & Miller does to help develop the race car. The output of that tells us, lets us visualize exactly what's happening where the air is. So, for example, one concern we had was if the air comes through the radiator and goes up and around the car, that's warm air coming out. We wanted to make sure that air didn't go into the passenger compartment, for one thing, but we also wanted to make sure that warm air didn't just go around the car and go straight into the quarter duct. You don't want warm air going in there, you want cold air going there. So we had to make sure we didn't do something to mess ourselves up by taking the hot air from the front and routing it in the cool air inlet in the back. Next slide. So here's a visual of where the air is coming from that goes through the hood, and you can see it routes around up over the top of the car, and you can see much of it coming out the back. You can also see brake cooling air coming out through the wheels here in the front. Next slide, here's a top view of that, and you can see some streamlines, cool blue lines coming into the duct here, and kind of, I don't know if we have another picture of it, but that air goes through a heat exchanger back here to help cool the trans and the differential, and then that warmed up air comes out through these functional vents that we've integrated into the tail lights and then also into the lower fascia. Next slide. In terms of overall aerodynamic performance, this is kind of a rank ordering on lift or downforce performance. So you can see the 6th generation car, if we read from right to left, the 6th generation car, the base car, has the most lift. Then we did the Z06, and the Z06 had more aggressive aerodynamics, had a front splitter, had a more aggressive wicker lip on the back. That got us some additional downforce. You can see the entry level, the standard Stingray, is better performing than the Z06. Not quite as good as today's ZR1, and you know the ZR1 has some pretty aggressive aerodynamic aids on it. A very long splitter that you can easily hit on curbs if you're not careful, and big rocker extensions. It's got quite a lot of aerodynamic aids. That car with all that is a little bit better than the standard Stingray. But the Z51, just check the box for Z51, and you get the best performing Corvette we've ever put on sale. In terms of aerodynamic performance. That strategy that we used on the front pins the front end down so firmly that we need much bigger aerodynamic aids in the back. I was asked this morning if the big spoiler that we're showing on these cars as part of the Z51 package is there for looks or for aerodynamic balance. It's 100% there for aerodynamic balance, and you can see it's much, much bigger than any rear spoiler we've ever put on a car. And that's all because we have to balance all the downforce we're getting on the front end. So here's some details. One of the things I wanted to do very early on the program, if you look at today's car, you see a lot of molded colored black plastic on the exterior. It's very inexpensive, it's very light, but it doesn't give you that really premium finish. So we really wanted in the details to put a lot of jewelry on this car and execute them very well. So you can see all the black parts of the outside of the car are painted in carbon flash, so it's kind of a sparkly black finish. You can see the black chrome inserts in the headlamps. Wide use of LED technology, extremely efficient, extremely fast acting, extremely bright, and little touches of chrome here and there to give the car a premium appearance. On the back, it's much the same. The bezel around the taillights is also painted. We put a lot of attention around the exhaust. Today we exit the exhaust underneath the car. We're doing what's called a through fascia exhaust, and you can see the 4 round outlets perfectly evenly spaced in the middle come through a framed outlet. That frame is not just appearance, that's also a heat shield. It's very warm back there, so you need to insulate the fascia from melting on the racetrack. And that's just the beginning. There's I've talked about some of these things, but there's a whole bunch of things. We're doing a two-tone carbon roof. I think I'll talk more about it, but you can get a two-tone carbon roof that we're showing on some of our cars. Things like just using really premium badging and insetting them into the bodywork so that they're flush. The LED tail lights, or lights all around the car I talked about. Amber turn signals, and even the mirrors. Kirk spent, I don't know how many wind tunnel shifts, but something like 20 wind tunnel shifts working on the exact shape of those rear view mirrors to make sure they were as low drag as possible and also as quiet as possible. That's another important thing. In terms of the proportion of the car, I've talked about this before, we had a big challenge because right now, Harlan showed the volume numbers, right now for the 6th generation car, the wide body car, the Grand Sport, is the best selling car we have. That's the look, that's the formidable street presence that people really want in their sports car, that you guys want by virtue of buying them. Our issue is, I was talking about efficiency. That car is not nearly as aerodynamically efficient as the narrow body car that we started the 6th generation Corvette with. We had to match or better that efficiency on the narrow body car, but give that street presence of the wide body car. And so what we've done is kind of subtly stretch the car in different directions. We've increased the track, both front and rear, by a full inch. That gives the car a little more stance. We've actually lowered the roof. We've kept the inside height to your head the same, but just through construction efficiency, actually lowered the roof 12 millimeters. That gives the car a low, wide, aggressive appearance. We put what we call more plan view shape in the nose, so made the nose a little bit pointier. Try to hold that to a minimum by tucking and tightening in the corners of the car to make sure it's very efficient, but also that makes it look very aggressive. So some very subtle things all around the car. We've actually increased the wheelbase by an inch also for a bunch of reasons. But we think we've done a lot to try to make the car look more aggressive in what's basically a carryover proportion from what we've had. Next slide. So comparing, a lot of people think the Corvette's a big car. You can tell them we're the same length as a Porsche 911, virtually exactly 176.8 versus 176.9. Inches. We're a little lower and a little wider, which I think is, makes perfect sense for a sports car. I would think we're exactly where we want to be from a size standpoint. I mentioned the interior was actually the first place we started talking about what the car needed to be improved. Ryan will talk about this a lot more, but there's obviously no carryover parts in the interior, and there's hardly any carryover materials even. All the materials are used, so real aluminum, real metal, real carbon fiber, premium leathers. Everywhere we could specify the best material we could get, we would do that. We've also incorporated some really modern technology in the interior. Here's the red, bringing back a bright red that goes really well with the torch red exterior. One of the beginning concepts was, and everybody talks about that, but I think we've executed it to a much greater degree than most, is a real cockpit environment. So everything from the driver's seat is really wrapped around you. We have, you can see the kind of symmetrical elements to the outboard and inboard side of you, enclosing all the instrumentation. The buttress, as we call it, the handle coming off the center stack, doubles as a passenger grab handle. It's nice and symmetrical with the handle on the passenger door, so the passenger has a really good place to grab onto when the driver's driving aggressively. As opposed to today's car, you have the emergency brake right there. You don't want your passenger grabbing onto that and try to stabilize themselves. So we tried to put something that was really a solid grab handle right in that area for the passenger. Next slide. There was some criticism, you recall if you read articles on the car, you'd heard about seats and you heard about steering wheel. Well, we decided from the beginning we're going to do our own custom steering wheel. We've narrowed the diameter to the smallest we think we can do it, while still having very big instrumentation, very readable instrumentation. So the 360 millimeter diameter wheel compares to the 370 that we have on today's car, or on the C6. And if you go all the way back to the 5th generation car, we were at 386 millimeters. So we've come a long way down, and now we're getting closer and closer to the size of wheels that you really find in race cars. We've improved the steering stiffness. This is a huge improvement in the car. The whole steering system, stiffness, everything from the wheel to the column to the intermediate shaft to the rack, and the way the rack's mounted to the body is almost 5 times stiffer than today's car, and that makes a huge difference in how linear the responsiveness and how quick the responsiveness is of the car. We've also made power tilt and telescope standard so everybody can get comfortable. Seats was the other thing that was talked about as a criticism point on previous generation cars, so we started very early and decided we were going to do our own custom seat architecture. Started with a magnesium frame, that's basically the lightest industrial metal you can buy. It enables the fabulous shape of the seat design. It's created these beautiful looking seats. We wanted to make sure it was very stiff and very light, looked great, and also worked really great. And Harlan and I have been peppered with questions over the years. Why don't you just do 2 seats? Why don't you do a traditional touring seat and then also do a competition sports seat? And we always hemmed and hawed and said, well, it's too expensive. You got to do crash testing. You got to do this, that. The seat is like the center of an integrated series of safety systems. And so it's very expensive. You don't just do a new seat and throw it in the car. Well, this time we bit the bullet and we did just that. We created a new seat architecture, and we tried to make it flexible enough that you could do kind of an all-around good, better performing than today, touring seat, comfortable for daily driving, good lateral support, and then also do a more aggressive competition sports seat. You can see the big access windows for 4-inch wide belts. If you want to do 4 or 5 point harness, more aggressive bolstering, a little stiffer foam, give you even more lateral support. And so now you have a check the box option for what you like. We spent a lot of time trying to understand the technology, not just style a seat and throw it in there. We benchmarked Recaro and some other seats. We put them in cars, and we came up with a way to actually measure the pressure on your body. If you look at the charts to the right, these are pressure mats that we put along the seat and behind your back. And then we'd take people out of all different sizes, and we'd have them drive the car aggressively, so pulling 1G in a corner, and we'd look at how the seat actually supported them, where it touched their body, how much pressure at that location, and benchmark seats then subjectively. Which one do I like, which one I don't like, and then correlated that back to these objective measurements. So we spent a lot of time trying to figure out the science of combining comfortable seats as well as very supportive seats. As a result, we have both seats are very comfortable, and both seats you'll find are extremely supportive. Looking around the interior, I talked about the materials, but really people expect today to have high-tech displays in their vehicle as well. So we actually have 2 8-inch displays, one in the cluster, one in the center stack. Both are high-definition displays. The cluster one, which is in a hooded binnacle and doesn't need to be touchscreen, is a 650 nit display. That's an extremely bright display. The one in the center stack is a 1,000 nit display, which we think is the brightest ever put in a car. We wanted it very bright, so even in a convertible or with the roof out and the sun shining in, wanted to make sure that display was readable. To give you an idea of what that means, an iPhone 5 Retina display is 500 nits, so we're twice as bright as that on the center stack. The driver mode selector is our reaction to increasing complexity in the car. You guys know over the years you've had adjustable suspension, you got traction control, you got all these different ways to set up the vehicle. We wanted to try to make that simple and put all those different controls under basically one knob. So we have a driver mode select that does everything from a weather mode, an eco mode, a tour, sport, track mode, and it sets up the whole car. Pretty much everything you see and feel and hear in the car changes when you change these modes. I think we have a description of up to 12 different things can change depending on how you've optioned the car. You get big differences in the cluster display. It actually changes look from tour, sport, and track. Your throttle progression, the way the transmission shifts, the sound of the exhaust. We've got up to 4 valves in the exhaust now. The steering with electronic power steering. If you saw Jim Merrow's presentation, he talked in great detail about the tuning that's going on. It's not subtle changes anymore. These are big time changes. The car really changes character a lot when you flip the switch. If you have magnetic selective ride, you change the feel of the car from being very plush to being tied down, critically damped for sport mode, and then track mode turns into a very hardcore, super highly damped setting. So you can see all these different things can be controlled by this single control. Now if you want to customize it, you can go into menus in the center stack, and if you just want, you know, this particular sound of the exhaust and this particular ride quality and this particular cluster display, if you want to mix and match, you can do all that on your own if you want. But for people who are first getting in the car and want to understand all its capability, we've put it all in one. This gives you a look at some of the displays technologies. You know, this is just the cluster going from a tour mode where you've got something where you might be just cruising down the highway and the tach's not moving very much, so you de-emphasize that, and you've got either navigation information up there or album art if you're on the radio, or you can have a bunch of vehicle status things. We've got a kind of a traditional tachometer with a center DIC and sport mode. And then the track mode is patterned after the C6R Racer, kind of displaying information much the same as it is in the race car. Heads-up display, we now have a full-color, high-resolution heads-up display. It also moves with the modes as well, so it can match the cluster, or if you want to have it set up custom, you can do that as well. Other interior details, we have a electronic locking glove box, so if you lock the car, the glove box is locked. We've got hidden storage behind the screen. This is one of the coolest things if you look at the picture to the right. That big 8-inch screen, if you hit a button, that screen drops down completely, revealing 1.5 liters, a big storage compartment behind there. You can hide things in there and nobody can tell it's in there. There's also a USB port in there, so if you want to plug in your iPod, you can tuck it away in there, nobody knows you got it, and it's plugged into the car. So lots of really fun, really nice little details in here. If you look at the car out here, one of my favorite one is the frameless mirror. It's like a floating piece of glass. It's much smaller than the inside rearview mirrors we have, so it blocks less of the forward vision facing forward, and it's just big enough to give you the view out the rear. So very elegant, really cool looking thing. Bigger cup holders. We got a subwoofer in the back with a 9-liter bass box. So if you get the up-level audio behind that rear compartment panel, we actually managed to package a 9-liter bass box. And Bose, who does do this, and did a much better job this time than they've done previously. They benchmarked a bunch of cars. The audio output for this car is the highest they've ever measured of any car. And not by a little, by quite a lot. You can see the personalized plaque. We have a nice plaque at the base. And if you want, you can actually get your name with the VIN number customized. You can order this right through the dealer and actually be made right here at the museum. Right? It's here at the museum? Or
yeah.
The museum is actually a supplier to the plant for this, and you can get your name and the VIN number on your vehicle.
Yeah, so these plaques, I just want to add something out there. We're really kind of proud of as kind of a way, you know, everybody wants to personalize their car, especially if you custom order a car. And the nice thing about it, if you do the personalized plaque or a museum delivery, you get that, and it really benefits the National Corvette Museum, and we want to do something that would help the museum for the motorsports park and things like that. So those kind of options will go to help the National Corvette Museum.
Okay, so check out the interior. It's really, really nice, a huge improvement in the car. I'd like to talk a little bit about powertrain, although many of these details have been shared previously. Here's our preliminary torque curve. I think everybody's heard the technology. We're moving to direct injection, variable valve timing, and then you get active fuel management, which is another term for cylinder deactivation. This engine has a huge amount of low-end torque. We've been talking about that a lot. You can see on the graph to the right, about 50 foot-pounds increase between 2,000 and 4,000 RPM. I can tell you when you drive the car, it makes the car feel tremendously responsive and more powerful than the increase in horsepower is. The car just feels like it's super responsive. Next slide. It actually has more torque in a lot of the areas than today's 7-liter engine. So here's the torque curve comparing to some of our competitors. You can see there's the Porsche 911, there's a BMW 8-cylinder, even the Ferrari 458, even though it spins way out there, it doesn't produce nearly as much torque as this LT1. We're still a little way. I got a lot of questions about when you're going to announce final horsepower. We're getting close to that. We haven't finished the witness certification for that, but it probably won't be too long now before that work is completed. We've talked a lot about the 7-speed, going to a 7-speed manual transmission. The thing that makes the 7-speed worthwhile is that it's an absolute riot to drive. And the main reason is active rev matching. And we've got a system where when you first start the car, it's not on, just like a traditional manual transmission. But you can see we're using the switches on the steering wheel to turn that rev match on and off. And a lot of time, I'm telling you, you're going to want to turn it on because it's really fun. It's really cool. When you turn it on, it'll do the downshift blips for you, so the downshifts are seamless. It'll also make sure on upshifts, no matter how you shift it, usually it's pretty easy to get a smooth upshift, but this will make sure everyone is glassy smooth. And the way we did it is a little different than our competitors. We actually put a sensor right in the shifter itself. It's right at the base of the shifter. It's called the 3-dimensional Hall effect sensor. Got a patent on it. And it can sense even very small motions of the shifters. And it can kind of predict which gate you're headed to before you get there. And so it starts the rev matching ahead of time. And so what you end up doing is you drive this car, if you like to drive a manual, and with 7 speeds to choose from, there's a lot of speeds. And so sometimes you might like to say, well, am I going to go down 1 gear or 2 gears? You can actually sort of test them out. You can very quickly just move the shifter a little bit in one direction, and the engine will jump to the speed that it would be if you let the clutch up. You try another gear, and it'll jump to that speed. So you can kind of test them out all in just like a fraction of a second. You can just very quickly move the gear shifter around, and the engine makes such great sounds. Now it really sounds great that I end up playing the shifter like a musical instrument. So you end up, you're going along, you're maybe coming to a corner, you step on the clutch, and you're trying to decide, okay, where am I going to downshift? And just with small motions of your wrist, you don't do anything with the throttle, the engine's blipping and it sounds fantastic. You get some overrun burble. It sounds like you're driving on a racetrack and all you're doing is coasting along with your foot on the clutch. So it's really a cool feature. We found that once people get used to it, they turn it on a lot of the time. Sometimes they're wanting it on and off in fast sequence. Even for certain shifts, they might want it on. So we put it right on the steering wheel, so it's easy access. You can turn it on or off whenever you want. So we have a 7-speed manual transmission, dual mass flywheel, which helps a lot for shift quality, both in terms of engagement of the clutch, but also reduces workload on the synchronizer, so the car shifts really well. So while many of our competitors are moving away from traditional manual transmissions, we're reinforcing our commitment to it and doing the best one we think's ever been done. Also available is the 6-speed automatic. I get the question all the time, why didn't you do a DCT? Well, there is no DCT that fits in this package, can take the torque of this engine, or to be honest, is compatible with the cylinder deactivation. The AFM, the DCTs are not particularly friendly to 4-cylinder operation. So even if we could find one that fit in here, it would be a huge challenge. And you get way more fuel economy out of cylinder deactivation than you do out of a DCT.
Hey, one thing I just want to add, I've been hearing some questions on the cylinder activation or the eco mode. In the manual transmission, you have to be in eco mode for that to be functioning. So if you want the V8 all the time, let's just pick one of the other modes other than the eco mode, and then on the 6-speed paddle shift, if you're in the manual paddle shift mode, it'll always be V8 all the time.
Yes, thank you, Harlan. In terms of the body structure, this is one area where if you look at the car from a distance, you might think, oh, it's a body structure, it's very similar, just maybe a few modifications from the aluminum structure that we have in the Z06 and ZR1. Nothing could be farther from the truth. This is a ground up, all new body structure. It doesn't have a single shared part. It uses the latest technology. We learned a lot doing the aluminum structures for Z06 and ZR1. We've learned a lot by benchmarking Audi and others who use aluminum structures. Our aluminum partners brought in all sorts of new technology. So this frame incorporates a lot of technology that just didn't even exist the last time we were doing an aluminum structure. So things like hollow castings, high pressure die castings. You can see we've got a whole mosaic of different kinds. It's all aluminum, but it's all different kinds of aluminum throughout the vehicle. Some of the stuff is really aerospace quality, super high strength, 7000 series aluminum to make it absolutely as light as it possibly can be. We saved, actually this chart's a little bit old, we saved a little over 100 pounds on the body structure, and it's almost 60% stiffer than today's structure. So what that means is a convertible on the Stingray with the top down, if you could take it and twist the whole body, is actually stiffer than the Z06 and ZR1 with their roofs in. So you got a solid permanent roof in, and you're still about 20% stiffer than that car, even with a car with no roof at all. So it's a huge improvement in the stiffness to weight ratio of this body structure. We are building it in Bowling Green as we speak. The body shop is up and complete, and we're basically finalizing all the kind of new age technologies, laser welding, flow drilled screws, the bonding, and there's a lot of adhesive in the process. So there's a whole bunch of new technology that Bowling Green is really learning to basically build this as a watch. It's extremely precise. When we eventually get tours up and running, I hope people can go over there and watch this high-tech facility because it's really awesome. This shows you a long look back. This is going all the way back to C4 to give you an idea of, I was talking about stiffness to weight ratio. So the whole purpose of the body structure is to make the car stiff and use as little mass as possible. So if you go back to C4, you see high mass, low stiffness. The 5th generation car was a real paradigm breaker, with the hydroform rails end to end. We made a big deal out of that because it was a big deal. And you can see a huge improvement in stiffness. A small mass savings, not a huge mass savings, but enormous improvement in stiffness. The 6th generation, we refined that, focused mostly on mass reduction. So you can see not a big improvement in stiffness, but a little improvement in mass. And then you can see this time around, big improvement in stiffness and a big improvement in mass. So a big improvement in both of the most important things. Also, we focused on mass reduction all over the car, all around, everywhere we could find it. So we've got the first time we're using carbon panels on the standard Stingray, the hood and the roof, standard equipment, carbon fiber, 100% carbon. Then if you look under the skin, you'll see carbon glass hybrids. So this is a mixture of glass and carbon in a new kind of resin system that takes mass and makes the panels underneath the skin stiffer. So looking for mass everywhere we can get it to make cars as light as possible. So I've gotten this question many times. What does the car weigh? What does the car weigh? Because we talked a lot about all these mass reduction things, but there's also a lot of things we've done that add mass in. For example, the engine, 16 kilos. You don't add variable valve timing, direct injection, AFM. You don't add all that content without that hardware weighing something. So to put that technology into the vehicle added 16 kilos. We're making engine oil cooling standard on the car. The reason for that is that we use that oil to perform a lot of those functions. Variable valve timing is one of them. The AFM actuation is used using the hydraulic pressure of the oil. So we're rejecting more heat to the oil, so we made the oil cooler standard. I mentioned the dual mass clutch has a lot of benefits. One of the negatives is that it's heavier than a traditional single plate clutch. We had to make the torque tube, the big connection piece between the trans and diff in the back and the engine up front. We actually had to go the other way from what we usually do. We had to go from aluminum to steel to stiffen that up to make the whole driveline stiffer so that when you're running in 4-cylinder mode, you don't feel the vibration in the car. You're probably wondering, well, why don't you just keep the car light and get rid of the cylinder deactivation? Well, the cylinder deactivation is by far the biggest single fuel enabler in the car. You could take hundreds of pounds out of the car and still not get as much fuel economy savings as you do out of the, oh, I see why they're laughing now. Yeah, this is always a good thing when we get a software upgrade in the middle of a presentation. Okay, I mentioned the exhaust valves. You know, we got additional valves in the exhaust. I'm sure it's going to work out well. Okay. When you put more power in a car, you necessarily add weight. So more power, more torque means like the standard differential that we have today would not have stood up behind this engine. So we actually had to do an all-new differential. We're doing an electronic differential as well, but the gear sizing is like today's Z06 and Z01. So we had to add some mass there. The brakes are a huge improvement. Instead of sliding calipers, we've got fixed calipers. We've got very substantial brakes, even on the standard car. That added some mass. Talked about the upgraded interior. You don't get fully wrapped, beautiful interiors. You don't get stiffer, higher performing seats for nothing. That added some mass. And then there's new regulations all around the car, new crash and safety regs that come in that requires content or some amount of added body structure. And then lots more infotainment kind of content, a lot of feature functionality. And then we put the battery in the back on all cars. The weight distribution of this car is actually rear biased. It's not 50-50, it's actually biased somewhat to the rear. And then we actually gave you a little bit bigger fuel tank, even though the fuel economy is better. So a lot of adds. We worked really hard. You can see in all the material choices, we worked really hard to offset those. So you can see we're coming in like we predicted before what I've been asked, between today's base car and today's Grand Sport. So lighter than a Grand Sport. So a little under 1,500 kilos or a little under 3,300 pounds. Even though some people might say, well, God, you put all that technology in there, why isn't it even lighter? I'd invite you to look at other V8 sports cars, especially ones that are convertibles. You recall that we sell nothing but convertibles, even the coupe is really convertible. Take a look at where those cars are mass-wise. They'd typically be 500 pounds, maybe even more heavier than this. So this is still a very light vehicle. We're also, for the first time, many of our competitors don't quote the curb weight, they quote the dry weight. So that's not, there's no fuel in it, they don't have washer fluid in it, they take a lot of the fluids out, so that's the dry weight. And our dry weight is 3160, so that might be more comparable to what you see quoted from what other manufacturers. Okay, chassis. How many people were in the chassis, the Jamero review yesterday? Okay, quite a few. So I'm just going to whip through this chassis stuff because he and Mike Bailey did an awesome job yesterday going through this content. I want to make sure we save some time for questions. So basically the chassis is the evolution of the SLA suspension we've been refining for generations. You see it almost universally on race cars. That's why we have it, same reasons. Many of our competitors do not have SLA suspensions. We've been refining it decade after decade, trying to take mass out, improve the stiffness, improve the precision of the whole chassis. One thing that I'm really happy with is even though we made the wheelbase a little longer, the turn circle is actually shorter, 2 feet shorter, and that makes it a lot more convenient when doing a U-turn on a 2-lane road or just parking, makes the car feel a lot more nimble. I mentioned the ELSD. This is kind of a game changer for the car, and once we get media and once you all get in the car and get to experience it in a performance setting, this changes everything. It has a huge impact on the way the vehicle handles and the way it feels. An open differential, I think Jim was talking about, you can make a car oversteer or understeer just based on the way you actuate the electronic limited slip differential. This comes standard with the Z51 package. It's tied into all the electronic safety systems on the car. One of the great things is that it stabilizes the car without needing to intervene with a traditional stability system where you use brakes. So it's not slowing you down, it's stabilizing the car, but it's not slowing you down. I think when you get out there on the track, you're absolutely going to love this. And this also is tied into the driver mode select that I talked about, so the way it behaves is totally customized by that. I mentioned the brakes. Brakes are a big upgrade. Brembo is now across the board our brake supplier, and we have fixed calipers across the board. Big upgrades in not just the caliper pad, but the rotors themselves. We have a co-cast rotor on Z51, so it's a separate center casting versus the friction surface. Helps save a lot of weight in comparison to a single casting. We've gone away from the cross-drilled rotors. If you look at race cars, you see almost nobody uses cross-drilled anymore. That creates stress risers in the surface of the braking. Everybody's got slots now. If you look at the C6R, you'll see C-shaped slots in their rotors, and you'll see very similar slots in this car on Z51. I mentioned Z51 a bunch of times. This is going to be a fantastic value for people who like performance. You get dry sump when you check the box for Z51. You get performance ratios in the transmission. You get that electronic diff. You get bigger shocks. You can get magnetic ride control if you want it, which really takes everything all the way to the top. You get bigger brakes, larger diameter wheels with tires that are custom engineered for the Z51. It's really a heck of a deal, and that's not even mentioning the spoiler that I was talking about earlier, the aerodynamic aid that you need to help the car get the car planted on the track. So we've talked about the performance of the car, and I've talked about the challenge we had to make a car that's as visually arresting as a Grand Sport is today, as efficient or more efficient than the narrow body from 2005 when we introduced the 6th generation car, and also make the performance better. And so we've announced previously, and we're going to have more news on this shortly, but we're saying we're 0 to 60 under 4 seconds, and I have to tell you we're solidly under 4 seconds. The brakes are fantastic. The stopping distance, you know, in today's car, in many magazine articles we've come close to or have set the production car record for brake distance. We expect this to be at least as good. We'll be solidly 1G cornering. I've talked about all the aerodynamics. We're coming straight off the racetrack. It's not race inspired, it's the actual race strategies being applied to the car. And we know, Jamero was talking about it, we're quite a bit faster than the Grand Sport on the track, and that's pretty darn good for the rest of the capability of this vehicle. We introduced the convertible in Geneva. So the car's basically engineered as a convertible to begin with. It's a coupe, but you can remove the roof. So very quickly we introduced the convertible in Europe. Got another round of magazine covers. People were very happy to see the quick introduction of the convertible. Just like the C6 and the C5, it was designed to be a convertible from the beginning, so there's no added structural reinforcements or anything. So the structure's no heavier with a convertible than it is with a coupe. We're really proud of that. We're almost unique in the world in that respect. We're going to a full one-button top, so no latch on the header, just a simple push of a button, and the top can lower or raise in about 20 seconds. You can also drive it at speed. So if you're at a light, decide you want to put the top down, the light turns green, you don't have people honking at you, you can drive away and the top will continue moving. So that's a really nice feature to have. We have a little animation of this. It's a very different operation than what we've had for generations on our convertible. You can see the tonneau slides up and over horizontal, parallel to the deck lid, and then the top slides underneath. Much more sophisticated mechanism, much more robust. The fit and finishes on the car, top up, top down, much improved. And you can see by not putting the tonneau the way it opens up today, it's not a big air catcher, and that's one of the reasons we can make the top operate while in motion. You can actually lower the top with your key fob remotely. So we also have on automatic transmission cars remote start, like many GM cars do. So as Harlan has said, Corvette people like to do things fast, like to get going fast. So as you're walking up to your car, you can start it, you can have the top down. It's running and ready to go when you get there.
If it starts raining, you can put it right back up again.
Yeah. Okay, so we're really proud of the way the convertible looks. Top up and top down looks quite distinctive. The top up appearance is extremely tailored. You can't read the body structure through the top. It's a very elegant, very smooth appearance. And all the performance stuff we've been talking about all the way through, check the box. You know, it's available on the convertible as well. We're going to have a wind deflector as we do today. I think it'll be a little nicer piece. It's going to be fully transparent, and you will be able to operate the top with it in place. You won't have to remove it. As today we have a trunk partition, and we have about a quarter difference, so about 3 months difference between the launch date for the coupe and the convertible. So fourth quarter of this year we start to ship in North America.
Yeah, we got 4 top colors. The car we have on display, the Night Race blue car, has a blue top on it. We had it up and we put it down during Ryan's presentation so everybody could see it. So we got the blue top, we have black, we have gray, and we have a Kalahari top that really goes well with that interior. This is the car with the Kalahari interior on display at Geneva. And this was the Night Race blue car that we have here, and it was also at New York with the brownstone interior. One of the things I want to talk about is, again, everybody's excited. You know, I've been getting a lot of questions. You know, how do I order? What should I get? What are these packages? My dealer got this thing, and I'm trying to figure it out. Can you help explain it to me? Well, we really tried to make it easier this time. We've gone to just 3. There's 3 levels, and you basically, if you're familiar with the Corvette of 2013 or what we've been doing for a number of years, we've gone from 4 to 3. Basically, every level got an upgrade. So the 1LT, we call that the purest. It is the least expensive, but it is really for somebody too we were talking to that want the lightest car available as well. The 2LT is really the package we think will be the most popular. It has a lot of the comfort and convenience and luxury features that we think most people typically buy. And the 3LT package is really the ultimate Corvette, you know, sports car luxury with the leather-wrapped interior. There's more of more color in the interior as well. The instrument panel doors are wrapped in leather. And they're also the brownstone interior we've been showing, that's exclusive to 3LT. It's really a showpiece. It's really our feature interior we really wanted to do to push it. And also the seats have the Napa leather, which is just as a higher grade of leather, really the ultimate for sports cars. I'm going to go back over this a little bit more in depth. Now, one of the things about the 1LT car, it has a lot of things you may not expect standard in the car. We've talked about you have 3 seat color options. You do get the full 8-inch displays that Tadge talked about are standard in the car. Talk about power 8-way seats, both sides, and tilt and telescoping wheel are standard. Keyless access, which we had for a while. The 7-speed manual with active rev match and launch control is standard. We have a rear vision camera on all Corvette Stingrays as well, taking advantage of that center display. We also have on the coupe, the Laguna Blue has that. It's a body color, but it's still a carbon fiber roof panel. It's only 16 pounds, makes it a lot easier to get it in and out. Carbon fiber hood on all Corvettes. Of course, aluminum structure, the driver mode selector, and standard audio system is a Bose 9-speaker system.
Yeah, I really forgot to mention that Harlan mentioned the 8-way seats. The extra 2 ways version today is a power recline, so you don't have to do ab crunches anymore when you're trying to bring the seat back up. You just hit the button and it's full power.
Right. And then the 2LT, the nice thing about having, Tadge said, like the 8-way power, when you go up to the 2LT, you get the memory package, and now it includes the recline as part of the memory, which before we couldn't do that because it was a manual, and of course the steering wheel and mirror are included. This also gets you the color heads-up display. It increases, Ryan had a great presentation on this yesterday, talking about the different color breakups, and it increases the amount of color in the car to the doors and the center console. And the other thing that's kind of new that we have, heated seats, which we've had. Now we have cooled ventilated seats in there as well. So a lot of people have been asking for that for a number of years. And we have the lumbar adjustments and the wing adjustments. And then this is true whether you get the GT seats or the competition sport seats. They both will have the same type of feature and power content as well. And also you get XM for ear, and we have a Bose Premium Audio, which adds a subwoofer to the rear, so it's a 10-speaker system. And we actually measured the power of this system. The sound decibel level was the highest of any car we ever had tested at General Motors previously. So it should be loud enough when you got the top down at 80 miles an hour. Then the 3LT package, again, the top level, we're showing the Adrenaline Red in here, but it is custom leather-wrapped interior, like I said, the Napa seats. Navigation is included, although you can offer you can order the navigation on any of the other Corvette levels as an option. So the 3LT is just automatically included. And again, the more color in the interior, and we'll talk about that in a second. The other thing that's neat about the 3LT, it has an option that you can get, we call it kind of the frosting on the cake. You can get the suede upper interior trim option. Basically, that's the A-pillars, the sun visors, the headliner, the B-pillars around the quarter windows, really all that trim in the upper part of the car is wrapped in suede. So it really brings it up to the level of the exotic supercars in terms of luxury in the interior. It really, it's nice to touch. It really sets off the interior. So what I kind of did here was and summarize it in 10 steps how you order your new 2014 Corvette. So the first thing you want to do, you want to pick either the standard, the Z51, or the Z51 with ride control. Pick one of the packages we just talked about, because you got 10 exterior colors and up to 5 interior colors to pick from. The GT or competition sport seats, and you can have those with either leather or suede seat inserts, because you have the 7-speed manual or the 6-speed paddle shift. You can get the standard exhaust, and you can get the performance exhaust, which gives you a lot more variation in sound when you use the driver mode selector. Of course, wheels. We have silver, black, machined, or chrome wheels. The coupe. The standard coupe is the painted body color carbon fiber. A lot of the show cars we've been showing have what Tadge was talking about, the two-tone top. It's visible carbon fiber like we used to have at the ZR1, but it has body color rails along the side, which really gives you a new type of look that we haven't had before. And you can still get the transparent clear top as well. And you can get the dual roof packages like we used to have. You can get your choice of one of the solids and the clear top. And navigation, we talked about that. And then there's a lot of personalization we still have. You can pick brake caliper colors. You can get carbon fiber interior trim and the suede upper trim I just talked about. So there's a lot of things you get. This is the 10 colors. The 2 newest ones, the Laguna Blue, which you have on display, and Eric brought over a lime rock green hood from the plant, so you can look at, and those are really exciting new colors. And of course we have a lot of Corvette favorites over the years, including the Torch Red and Velocity Yellow.
And there's been a lot of questions about Kalahari too. I think tomorrow during the interior presentation with Brian and Lucy, they're going to at least have a swatch of material to show you what that color is, and we may even try to grab some parts from the plant that are just going together. We'll bring one over for people to look at it, because a lot of people want to know, does it look like what's in the picture, or what's it really going to look like? So we may be able to have that for you tomorrow.
Right, and then on the interior colors, again, Ryan went over this before, but just as a review, there is a slight difference in the 3LT between the Adrenaline Red and the gray. Have a color breakup, and then what we did on the Kalahari and the Brownstone, it's more of what we call the dipped interior, where it has a lot of, the whole instrument panel is that color.
And I want to make another comment. We usually have a bunch of cars here to showcase. We're actually prohibited from showing the non-saleable cars that we're building at Bowling Green, but I have it on good authority that some of those vehicles may be parked outside the plant, but inside the fence later this afternoon. So if you drive on your way out of here, if you want to drive around the plant, go by the E lot. And peer through the fence, you may see an assortment of vehicles out there, but they're not for display purposes. They just happen to be parked out there.
almost there. All right, on the wheels, these factory wheels on the left are the standard Stingray, Corvette Stingray wheels. You're available silver, machined, or chrome, and on the right are the Z51 wheels. They're sterling silver, black, or chrome. We also have a lot of dealer-installed accessories. You notice in the convertible, we're showing off these new accessory wheels, 5-spoke. They're available in sterling silver or chrome. We have a lot of Stingray logo type of items that are coming out. They're pretty cool. Wheel caps, armrests, things like that. Of course, logos on the luggage shade, the windscreen. We talked about the interior plaques. We're going to have an option if you do buy a car off of dealer stock. We don't want to leave you out, so there's a way. We're going to call it the National Corvette Museum Registry, so you get your name on a plaque after the car was built, if you want to sign up for that later. And one of the things we're kind of excited about is this new luggage option. We have Corvette custom luggage, 5-piece set, and so we all go on trips. It's being a lot easier to pack. Fun. It's a pretty neat feature. Again, you get 2 airport bags, messenger bag, duffel bag, and a backpack, and it fits in there perfectly, as you see. Okay. So now we're at the end of the presentation, and I know everybody's asking, well, how much is this going to set me back? What are you guys thinking? So we've been saying if you can afford a 6th generation, if we can afford a 2013 Corvette, you can afford a 2014 Corvette. So anybody have any feeling on the price we would have for the standard Stingray Coupe 1LT? $51,995. Some people are connected to the internet and some people aren't. $51,000 plus $995 for the. So you think about that, all the features we talked about, aluminum, carbon fiber. It really, I think people are happy with it.
Yeah, if you read any of the articles, people were predicting a much bigger price increase for the car based on the content and the kind of performance and feature content, technology that we were putting into this car. So Harlan and I have been fighting for a long time to try to bring this out at virtually carryover pricing from today. It's very, very close. And actually, if you look at the feature content, just making the power seat standard, power steering column standard, if you add up all that stuff, you're basically getting a huge deal here.
Can anybody know the convertible? Who's been online? And anybody know what the Z51 Performance Package costs? It's cheaper. It's cheaper with Z51.
$2,800.
$2,800. The price is right. So, so we think we have a pretty good setup for you guys for the Stingray. I hope you guys like it, and we hope to expand our audience. And I think I've been telling people next year you may have a lot of new friends here that we haven't seen before at the Corvette Museum at some of our events. And I hope we all welcome everybody with open arms to our Corvette family.
Okay, while he's doing that, I just want to thank you all for coming. I'm sorry it took, there's a lot of content, a lot of things to talk about in this car. That's why we split out with all the specialty seminars, and those are going to continue going on. We expanded over 3 days this year instead of just the normal Friday and Saturday schedule, but we really wanted to give everybody an opportunity to hear about everything. So we have time for a couple questions if you guys want to ask a few questions. Right here.
Yeah, I saw the pricing on the brakes, and the black brakes are something like $500, the red brakes are $1,000. What's the difference in functionality other than color?
We have red or yellow brake caliper options, and we've had that previously. I think it's $595. It's the same, basically carryover from.
There's no different functionality.
It's just to get the color, to get them painted in different colors. Yeah, the same brakes, and you can get that on either the Z51 equipped car or the standard car if you want. Then what we did was on Z51 it comes with black brakes, the standard car comes with gray brakes, and then you can get red or yellow as options.
Back here?
On the competition seat, when you come out with the production seat, will it have a sub-strap slot in the seat for a 5 or 6 point harness?
No, we have the pass-throughs, but the rest of the harness is totally going to be done by the aftermarket. That's not something we can get ourselves into. So we're providing actually it was a little bit of a push to even, internally that's not what they're there for. That's not why those holes are there. So it's pretty much up to the customer from that point on to provide for their own safety. Any more questions right here?
Do you know what the total number of C6 production was?
Total C6?
Across all 9 years?
I think we're around, I could double check, I think it was around 215,000-ish in that range.
Easy to look up.
I have that on a chart I could get out.
And it was a heck of a run. I mean,
Yeah.
the C6,
Almost $250,000.
Yeah, we did every imaginable permutation of the C6 Corvette over its 9-year life cycle. We're really proud. Harlan was going through it of the 427 convertible. It was a hell of a car and did the Corvette community proud for 9 years.
On the standard transmission on the 7-speed, what is going to be the final drive ratio?
342.
342?
Same as today.
Production number.
Any better idea as far as when the first ones are going to go for sale?
Well, we said third quarter because there's a heck of a lot of work to do still. We have obviously a schedule in mind, but we don't want to put any dates out there. Every time we've even put a date out there and met the date, they're still grumbling that, oh, they didn't make it because they didn't get my car there that day. And so that's why we leave it pretty fuzzy that, because even once we start producing cars, you're not going to see them on the street. It's going to take a long time to populate even the dealers who are getting the first cars. It's going to be a while before there's any significant quantity out there. That's why we say third quarter of this year.
So the real question is when we're going to build his car. Yeah, what we did was we wanted to make sure everything was up front for dealers and customers, so they had to basically sell 4 Corvettes last year and go through the training, and we had a little bit over 900 dealers qualified for that, and they'll be getting the first allotment, and they know how many, what their estimated order number is going to be. So your dealers do know that, and we know which dealers they are. So we were hoping that would help everybody easier find the right dealer for them.
Production numbers, how many do you anticipate?
Well, we're going to build to demand. We're
guys.
capacitizing. Yeah, you guys all buy one. That's a start. But
Are you going to build more than ordered or not?
no, we're going to build to demand. We're capacitizing to our traditional volume. If that volume materializes globally, all around the world, that's great. But we plan to just build to demand. So right now, it looks like the demand is going to be pretty high. But to be honest, this is a tough market. We're still recovering domestically. Europe's even worse than it's been off in a long time. So globally, the market for high sport cars is not very good. It's a discretionary purchase. So we're selling into a little bit of a tough market, but we think we're extremely competitively priced for the car you get. nav system is completely different, yes.
Yes.
And you'll tell us how you like it later.
Yeah, I mean, it's an all new navigation system. I mean, it's really the best that GM has. We were able to upgrade, and it has voice recognition that can really go by your normal speech. You don't have to use certain commands, and so it has. We have the Bluetooth capability for audio, streaming audio. Basically, all the state-of-the-art connectivity things with both the navigation and infotainment now.
The voice recognition is actually astonishing. It's amazing how good it is.
You have to be, this is very interesting, because, yeah, we know what, nobody likes that, but we have to do that way. But with the voice rec, you can just say the address and input it in while you're driving by verbally. Or there is a default, if you have a passenger, and the car now knows if you have a passenger, because of the airbag, it will allow the passenger to do it.
That's the best we could do. Okay, yes. The LT, you're asking, all the interiors are wrapped. The top level model is premium leather. The entry level model, Ryan disappeared, but it's protein vinyl. It's a very high quality vinyl. It feels like, it looks a lot like leather. Doesn't smell like leather, but it feels like it.
So the neat thing, there's no hard plastic. You know, everything is wrapped.
Yeah, wrapped, soft touch painted, or covered in carbon or real metal, or just premium materials everywhere you touch.
Is there any plan for backup sensors?
Backup sensors. We have the rear view camera, but for the time being, as we're introducing the car today in 14, there's no backup sensors. But you get, you know, a big 8-inch screen with the backup camera.
It was kind of one of those things too, design-wise. We didn't want to, you know, we're all really picky at Corvette versus some of the other cars. We don't like those little sensors put in the, we just couldn't face it. It made us cry. Those little sensors in the back. So we thought, you know what, Corvette people, we're pretty active anyway. We can see the camera. And the neat thing about the camera though, it does have these lines that follow the steering of the car. When you look at the back, so you can gauge it by the grid. It's like a grid line. So you can tell by the grid line over what you're driving. Really makes it easy to judge where you are.
Yeah, if you haven't seen that system,
all the time.
It shows you the path where you'll go based on where you're holding the steering wheel. So if you want to hit a spot back there, you just turn the wheel till the lines intersect that spot, and that's exactly where you'll end up. How about from the back here?
The 2LT is going to be, you think, the most popular. Do you have any pricing on the 2LT too?
Yeah, I remember I know the 3LT is exactly 60. I think I have to look it up. I think that the 2LT comes in around 50. No, I'm not going to make it up. I'm going to look it up.
The answer is yes, we have the pricing. Even though we only talked about some of it, the pricing is now out there for all the options, right, Harlan?
Right, all the options.
But you didn't hear him say the 2LT is going to be the most popular. He's just trying to get you the price. Pardon me?
One of the screens you had in it said it was the most popular you expected.
Okay.
We just called it popular because it has the popular comfort and convenience features that traditionally have been popular on Corvette. Actually, I kind of expect when we start the 3LT to be the most popular at first, and probably over time, you know, because the people, I think everybody, the excited people early want everything, and then over time, usually, it goes down a little bit, so.
How about another one in the back here? I don't have that. It does add mass because you got bigger wheels and tires, bigger brakes, you got the ELSD, you got the dry sump, there's a bunch of stuff on there. I'd just be guessing if I was to tell you what it was. Okay. All right, we'll come back to the front because I can't see in the back.
Harlan's response to the question about the backup sensors may be the same response to the question I've got. Was there any thought given to turn signal repeaters in the outside mirrors?
We do have that on our export because it's a requirement to have those side repeaters. We don't really like the export mirrors that much. They're a lot bigger, kind of bulkier. They're more draggy, more noisy. Is like, you know, we're always listening for customer input. I guess how many people in here would like side repeaters in the mirror? Is that an important feature to you? Just him? I saw a couple of hands go up. One hand, okay, smattering. That's why, hardly anybody likes it. Okay, back here in the red.
When would the convertible model be available?
Fourth quarter this year, so roughly 3 months behind the coupe.
That's weird. Anyway, the 2LT is about 56,205.
56,205.
How about the 3LT?
3LT was 60, even.
Just bring your orders to the front. Harlan will price them out right now. person behind you, they pinned their hand.
The rear fascia, the lower fascia, is it black on all color choices? Or is there
It's that same carbon flash accent color. Are you asking that because you don't like it? Would you like it monochrome, or would you like a different color? Or
I would like to see it in monochrome.
you'd like to see it in monochrome? It's a lot of color, you know. One of the criticisms over the years of the car has been it's got a big butt, big back end, and when you paint the whole upper and the lower all one color, it just exaggerates that. Okay.
Are there any more colored headlight options?
No. There are not. How about in the back corner?
Would you have the option of
Yes. Pandora. He's asking about Pandora. You're gonna have
Yeah,
Pandora.
you can, yeah, one of the neat things, you can hook up through your phone, you can listen to Pandora, I think there's Stitcher, and...
without your phone?
Oh, without your phone?
Would you have Pandora?
I think it plays through the Bluetooth on your phone. We have the apps on there. I think you can do it either way. You can do it either through the app on the radio, or you can do it through your phone as well. It also will do, like if you have Siri, the voice on your phone, or the Android has one too, you can do the voice pass-through through the car into your phone.
You'd like to be able to do it without your phone?
You would like to do it without your phone? Okay. There's the app on there. You can do it either way.
All right, Hib, what's up?
In the mode switch, I see you have a winter mode.
Yes,
but
weather
there's no-
mode, not winter, but
Weather
weather.
mode, okay, but you have no winter tires.
We will have winter tires.
You will?
There will be winter tires available for this car.
Yeah, we're working with Michelin. There'll be winter,
How soon?
all-season tires available.
And when the car is available, the tires will be available, as far as I know. Before the first snowflake flies, if you have a car, you should be able to get winter tires. It's my understanding.
How many people would buy all-season tires if they were available for Corvettes? Or winter tires? You know,
And then drive it in the snow.
and actually drive it.
We got one here. Okay. I've done it. It's a riot. It's fun. Yeah. Yes. What's snow?
The Florida people are commenting.
Yes.
In the order guide, it talked about ordering optional wheels, and then it said you're getting 2 sets of wheels when you do that. Can you clarify that?
That was a mistake. It really applied, the note really applied to the accessory wheels, the torque wheel. It only really was supposed to apply to that, and accidentally it got on all the optional wheels. So it's just like you're used to. Normally, the wheels, you get the wheels you ordered. The only thing was a warning, because we had some people on last year's car, they would order chrome wheels and then they would order an accessory wheel on top. We just want to make sure people knew if they were doing they were getting 2 different sets. But it was wrongly put on, so it was a mistake. We're sorry.
Thanks for bringing it up, though, so we can.
Thanks for bringing it up, now everybody knows. One thing we do wrong, you have to bring it up.
I got number 2.
Uh-oh, we got number 2.
You were kind enough to show us the boost gauge in Geneva. When would that option be available?
Well, you missed the tow haul mode. This cluster has corporate common software in it, so it applies to all sorts of vehicles. So had you looked carefully, you would have seen tow haul mode, you would have seen some other things that don't belong to
There's
this
like
car.
some, what do they call it, like hybrid mode for
hybrid modes.
charging modes.
It's a great answer. It's a great answer.
Also, it's true.
When we get the early clusters, they just they put everything in there.
Good answer.
The back.
He's been working on that one.
Yeah.
The suede inserts are enough charge from the 3LT price.
Yes.
For the seats, it would come with the leather, and then you can get the suede inserts. Although it don't ask me the number, I have to look it up. But it'd be less expensive on the 3LT than it is on the other ones because you already have the Napa leather.
Yes, along the wall.
Is the carbon fiber trim on the interior standard, or does it cost extra?
That's also an extra cost option. That's a real carbon trim plate. The supplier does similar kind of executions for Aston Martin and other super premium brands. Yes, Tom?
If you didn't have the 3LT or the moving map display, you wouldn't have a backup camera, would you?
You get the 8-inch screen in every car, and so you get a backup camera in every car. Okay.
Where's that located?
It's in the license plate pocket, so it's just above the license plate. In fact, you can read your own license plate if you want. If you don't know what it is. Okay, here.
Are the options available out on the GM website?
I don't know, I don't think they are. I think we announced the major pricing today. Actually, I probably gave you some stuff that wasn't really announced yet. But we announced the major, the base pricing and Z51 for a few of the options today. And I think later next week, the complete price schedule for everything will go to the dealers and everybody for all the individual options.
Look back here on the aisle. Nothing. I didn't even hear the question. I know I can't answer it. Does anybody have a question about the 2014 Stingray?
You've not even sold one yet. They're already tired of it. They want something else.
I'm waiting for the C8 question now. Yeah, it's almost done. Okay, any more questions? Okay, right here.
Will you guys have an ample amount of C7s at Corvette Carlisle on display?
We will. There should be a lot of cars. I'm planning on driving there myself. I'm sure Harlan is. There'll be a bunch of us bringing cars to Carlisle.
Need help?
We'll put you on the list. Okay. Any more?
Who would want to help?
Okay, you're all on the list. Okay, anybody else?
Just, is MPP exhaust or that version of it included with Z51?
No, we have it. You could get it with either package with either exhaust, whatever you want.
It's just like today, free flow option.
Power increase.
Power increase like we have today?
Yes.
Could be.
And a price like we have today? How about a price like we have today?
Yeah.
Okay. That was easy.
Yeah, a lot of the pricing for similar features are similar. You just say that.
Okay, you get it.
Regarding that, you alluded to the fact that you're looking for the number for the horsepower. When will you get the SAE number on that?
We're just weeks away from that.
The information coming from the instrument panel will transform onto the heads-up display.
Yes. In fact, the cluster actually controls the heads-up display, so we finally, after years and years and years, this digital speed in the cluster and the heads-up are exactly the same. Took a while to figure that one out, but we did do it.
Yeah, mine is different.
Is there a separate controller if you order magnetic ride with Z51, or is that integrated with the controller?
It comes from the factory integrated, but if you want to go in there and separately control the ride from the exhaust sound, from the cluster display, if you want that steering feel, you name it, if you like to set the car up custom for yourself, you can do it. And it'll latch, which means every time you start the car, it'll be there for you that way.
The exhaust sound when you do the 4-cylinder mode, it's going to sound, what's it going to sound like?
4-cylinder mode only comes on extremely light throttle, so you won't even, the engine noise is typically so subdued at that point, you don't even know, you don't even hear. In fact, we put valves in the system just to cancel out what you wouldn't like. So at those low throttle positions, the throttle is almost all the way closed already, and then when it goes into 4-cylinder mode, it's not like you're getting a lot of induction noise or exhaust noise at that point anyway. On the contrary, we're talking about the sport and track mode. We actually tuned the track mode exhaust sound to sound loud when you're wearing a helmet, And so it's, when I said there's a lot of difference between these modes, there's a lot of difference between these modes. That's why I think people are going to get in, they're going to play with it, they're going to try out and learn the capability of the car. And I think most people are going to eventually decide, you know what, that's too much for me every day. I'm going to dial back. You know, I like the heavy steering, but I don't like that loud exhaust. I like the firm, you know, the little ride. You're going to end up custom tuning it because it does make a big difference in the car.
Tadge, when you were developing the car, can you tell us some areas that were just the most challenging, like just maybe you kind of hit a wall more than other areas?
There was a lot of challenges, obviously, in the car. We've been working on it for 4 years. Probably the integration of all the systems. We've got a lot of complicated new technology, trying to make that all play together and come across to a customer is very simple and well integrated and intuitive and understanding. Getting all those disparate systems to work together are probably one of the biggest challenges.
You're going to be able to order the 1LT and put a few of the options on that 2LT cab or not? You can order that up on the 1LT?
No. But you can get a Z51 package and you can get a competition seat on a 1LT.
That's the only thing?
No, that's not the only thing. I'll just give you some examples.
So you couldn't put heated and cooled seats in the...
No, I mean, that's what those different levels are for, so that we can, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's part of
So if you want heated and cooled seats and you want heads-up display, definitely get 2LT.
And navigation.
You can get navigation on any of the levels as an option.
So if you want valve exhaust MPP and you want nav, Harlan gives you, there's quite a few options. If you want to just tack those onto a base car, you can do that.
You might have more than you would have bought 2LT.
For the most part, what we try to do with this 1LT, 2LT, it's kind of a level of, for lack of a better term, kind of the luxury and comfort convenience options and the interior, you know, things like that as it goes up. But the performance options, one thing we like to do in Corvette is always offer the performance options on the 1LT so you can get kind of the lightest weight, highest performance car if that's what you want. So we try to make like the dual mode exhaust. We thought the competition seat would be if you wanted more of a track car. So we try to do that kind of stuff, at least make that available. And because we have a screen in every car, we thought it was very easy to make the navigation optional across the board as well.
Are the leather seats the same as well?
1 and 2 would have the same leather, and then the 3LT has the Napa leather. Right.
Right here. Warranty. Yes, we have a warranty.
Yeah, warranty will be what we're used to. We still have the powertrain, 100,000 mile, 5-year powertrain warranty, and the 3 years on everything else.
Yeah, no big announcements on warranty. It's pretty much the same.
On the automatic transmission, are there something like in the sport mode like it on the EL 1 tomorrow, that it starts in first gear to second gear and hopefully the gears longer? Is that going to happen over that?
I think so. No. Corrected. Performance shift algorithm.
Yeah, performance. That's something we used to have. We didn't have it, and then we got it back. It's really pretty cool. So if we always thought, okay, people want to use, if they're on the track, the paddles most of the time to take over manually. But if you don't, you can leave it in drive. And like Luke was talking about, the performance shift algorithm, it knows the G-forces and everything, so it'll hold it in gear longer. It, you know, can sense when you're going into turn. It won't shift in the middle of a turn for you or something like that. It's a pretty cool feature. You can drive pretty fast around the track, even in drive.
Cylinder DEAC, what do the valves actually do when you're in 4-cylinder mode?
Don't open. You're talking about the valves in the cylinder?
No, the valves in the exhaust.
Oh, well, there's valves upstream of the muffler, and the engine knows when it's going to go into 4-cylinder mode. So as soon as you do that, it closes the valves, but it doesn't close them all the way. All it does is create a restriction, a tuned restriction. So when that butterfly closes, it actually has like a sector in it, a hole in it. And so what it does is that attenuates any 4-cylinder noise that you wouldn't like. So you think of it as a valve closing completely, but it doesn't. It just goes from fully open to almost closed effectively. And it's timed exactly with the engine transition, so to your ear you just don't hear anything.
And they stay closed the whole time it's in?
The whole time it's in 4-cylinder mode.
Okay.
Yep. So as you crowd the throttle, eventually you'll pop out a 4-cylinder, those valves are open, you'll start to get more and more engine sound, and then if you have NPP, it'll operate like you're used to today. If you're high enough RPM and into the throttle enough, the second set of valves open, and it's like the afterburner kicking in, and you really get a lot of noise, and you can actually, you can feel the torque spike going up.
Why can switch them over to electric?
Well, vacuum is kind of, you can control it better, is the bottom line. You can control it better with electric, because you're timing it to a cylinder, to a single revolution of an engine, so you need to be able to time that instantaneously. Any other questions? And I do need to point out that Harlan and I do need to go to bed tonight, but we will be tomorrow at...
Not together.
Tell me to get back on my side. We spent a lot of time together, but we will be here.
Well, not that much, but
anyway, we will be over tomorrow. We will be over in the auditorium, the large room, and probably do a quick version of this and spend more time answering questions. And we can take a couple more.
This car thing don't work, you guys can do a Vegas act.
We're not that funny. Or that good looking, at least that.
It probably pays more though.
Per hour, anyway. With all the new technology that you have baked into this vehicle, how do you make sure the first unit is just as reliable as the 100?
Well, even though we sold the VIN 1 to Rick Hendrick, that's not the first car we're going to produce. We're going to produce hundreds of cars before that, but they'll all be consumed internally, either non-saleable cars that we're producing. Now we're going to put those on the track. We're going to put them on durability tests. That's what I was talking about earlier. Then we do our own captured test fleet where we're going to drive hundreds of thousands of miles all across the country, all different locations, to make sure all the stuff works perfectly. We also take the parts off of production tools. The factory, all of our suppliers do a run-it rate where they make all their parts at the limit of their capacity. Then you take those parts and you test them. You test them in the lab to validate that their process variation hasn't moved them in a direction that hurts the performance on the vehicle. So you do component testing, subsystem testing, and then full vehicle testing on cars and parts like we're building right out of here at Bowling Green, and we try to do all that before job one goes out to a customer. Okay, how about the back here?
Almost every car magazine in the last year has evaluated electronic power steering and they have complaints, even on some of the good cars. Will yours surpass that?
We think we got the state of the art. We've taken what the Porsche 911 has done and taken it one step further. They are getting, the Porsche was kind of the benchmark for a long time on steering feel, and the magazines have said, okay, yeah, it's the best EPS, but not as good as the old hydraulic system. Bottom line is the industry has moved away from hydraulics. It's a whole technology shift. It's not an option anymore to do. You can't even source a hydraulic gear. So and it's primarily driven by fuel economy, not having a hydraulic pump hanging off the engine. So the entire industry is, in some ways forcibly, but moved away from hydraulic systems. So it's not like we had a choice, should we do hydraulic or electric? We had to do electric, and our challenge was make it the best electric we could. And so if you heard Jim Merrill's presentation yesterday, he was talking about how he fought tooth and nail not to do the EPS, and now he's glad he lost the fight. So it enables you to do a lot of things like have sport, tour, and track different boats with very different steering calibrations and feel. And but we're going to put it out there. We think it's the best in the world. We'll put it out there. We'll get feedback from customers, and we'll be working with the suppliers how to make it better and better and better over time.
In June, the museum comes to Virginia to do the VIR HPDE. Will you guys have any of the C7s there? And if you need a consumer to drive one, sort of give you feedback.
Should I ask for volunteers on that one too? No.
Well, Rock needs to watch his car, sir.
Well,
Did you see it out front?
I got two things to say about Rock. First, don't blame him about the event moving. It's our fault. We wanted to use the nicer projector. And then second, there's a raffle happening right
They're pulling the stuff right
So
out.
right now, if anybody's interested, to see if they won.
And we have to,
And we have to reset the theater for the Michelin thing. So, last question, one question.
I walked in later, it may have been asked, the navigation system on the car right now is a DVD-based system. Are we getting away from that? Is it going to be something, is it still going to be a closed loop? Because in the car that I drove up here, I can communicate with other drivers to know what the speeds are, if there's a policeman ahead, all those types of things I know of what the problem is, if there's an accident ahead, I know about that with the system I have. Will I be able to do that with the Corvette?
I think I understand your question, and the answer is yes. We've got a state-of-the-art nav system. It's got real-time traffic, things like that. Actually, we got weather. You get Doppler radar on the thing. Yeah, it tells you the speed limits. So it doesn't. I don't know what car you're driving, but it doesn't show radar traps. If that was what you were asking. I wish we had that. Oh, from other motorists. I got you. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. So anyway, I appreciate you listening. We've lost half the crowd now.